Shin's legacy does not stop with his own music. He explored new territory with his own band, but along the way, he launched the careers of many of the 70s top stars. Let's hear from Professor Choi Woo-hyuk.
When he was working with the singers, he tended to become a different person. He focused more on how to make a big hit. That's where his ability of making a hooky melody and lyric came up to the scene.
Imagine Jimi Hendrix and Brian Wilson's talent in a single person, and you have an idea of Shin Jung-hyun's full impact on Korean music. The Shin Jung-hyun sound became a trademark of quality, and Shin brought the best out of his artists, finding their unique strengths and discovering hidden gems like soulful vocal masters Park In-soo and Chang Hyun, and haunting songstresses like Kim Jong-mi and Lee Jung-hwa. Despite all his musical ambitions, the music scene of the time was dominated by artists doing covers of Western music, but Shin wasn't interested in recycling. We asked Mark Russell, author of Pop Goes Korea, to explain Shin's reason for developing the Shin Jung-hyun sound.
Because at the time, music was played, well, it started off playing on foreign army bases, so they were trying to be music that the foreign troops would be comfortable with. Now, Shin Jung-hyun was different because Shin Jung-hyun, much more than the other artists, was writing his own music and started developing his own scene that was different. He tried a couple times to different degrees of success, but only when he teamed up with the Pearl Sisters for that really big album, Nima, did it take off and become a whole thing in Korea.
Shin's effort to establish his own sound eventually paid off. But before Miin and the Yupjans, before Shin found the right mix for his own band, he put himself on the map by producing an album for someone else. The Pearl Sisters were fresh-faced winners of a song contest when they first approached Shin, and for a year, they worked together. Yet he hadn't expected the Pearl Sisters to strike it big so suddenly. Shin explains in his 2006 autobiography, My Guitar Never Sleeps.
After hearing that I was leaving for Vietnam to advance my career, the Pearl Sisters asked me to make a final parting album. The result was their debut album, which had Nima, My Dear, Donaya Harkasadam, The Man Who Must Leave. I was living with my family in a one-bedroom rental when someone came knocking on the door in the middle of the night. At the door stood King Bok, the Pearl Sisters' promoter. Shin-young, it's a hit. Nima is a hit. Nima is a hit. We have to cancel your flight to Vietnam. Because the album was a hit. I was asked to stay behind, but I had already signed a contract and received a down payment. Don't worry about the contract, King Bok said. I will see to it that you don't have to go.
The song, My Dear, or Nima, carried both the Pearl Sisters and Shin Jung-hyun to #1. Even producing hit after hit, Shin always brought his own style to it. Professor Choi Woo-hyuk explains how his music was different from everything else out there.
I could sense that the melody of his songs were very rhythmical. 기다려줘 by Jang Hyun, if you listen to the melody, that's really kind of a Motownish band sound, like a gospel-influenced songs. 기다려줘, something like that. And he had the ability to put the Korean lyrics into the rhythm. And that's, I think, the geniusness of his songwriting ability.
Yet, more significant than the hits or the money, Shin helped his singers establish themselves as artists in their own right. Professor Shin Hyun-jun suggests this is one of Shin's true strengths as producer.
The case of Kim Chu-ja and Jang Hyun, it's obvious that music was Shin Jung-hyun's music, but he also gave a new identity and autonomy to the singer as well. Even though the later records by different producer or arranger was not good as the records produced by Shin Jung-hyun, but they also can manage their own careers. If I make comparison with Berry Gordy Jr. in Motown, Berry Gordy is quite well known, is very skillful at the bringing talents, but he was also good at managing the talents under his auspice. But the second thing was not the part of Shin Jung-hyun.
Though he was a true star maker, again and again, the singers Shin trained left his studio to work elsewhere. Despite his inability to hold on to his artists, Shin's peak from 1968 to 1970 produced an astonishing list of classic songs before he went silent in the mid-70s.